Hello, my name is Jennifer Harwick, and I'm going to. Well, right now you can see I'm here in a trailer. We're out in the middle of nowhere, but camping. So, and happy Thanksgiving. I am going to discuss the story Maniac Magee by Jerry Spinelli. This was written in 1990, and it was awarded a Newbery medal in 1991. So I'm just gonna put this up right here. Um, so I love books. Well, the author Jerry Spinelli, he has also written other familiar books such as Stargirl and Ringler and Milkweed, Loser, Crash, and a whole bunch of others. Um, this is a realistic fiction story, which is good for young adults, middle school aged kids. Scholastic says for about, sixth grade to eighth grade students. So, I mean, you can obviously use it for anything else because it has a great story. And it's a great character building story as well. I love books that offer up a new perspective on life or different situations that we might not be familiar with, we might not be used to. And this is one of those books that I chose to discuss about. It's a story about a young boy that is about 11 years old. His name is Jeffrey Lionel Magee. He loses his parents by a trolley accident when he was 3 years old, and then he ends up living with his aunt and uncle for about 8 years. But then he finds himself in a very uncomfortable living situation because his aunt and uncle don't get along. They have this built up hatred for each other, and it's a very uncomfortable environment. So yeah, there's no communication between his uncle and aunt. They just don't talk to each other. And then so one day, Mr. Magee, or Jeffrey Magee, he stands up in the middle of a school concert and he yells to his aunt and uncle, talk to each other. And then after he has this outburst, he just starts running. And running and running and running for hundreds of miles. So after 200 miles, he ends up in this town called Two Mills. And so you can see this picture of the book. It's of 2 feet with worn out shoes. So it depicts Jeffrey Magee running, and which is, as you read throughout the story, he runs a lot and he's good at it running, and he has competitions with running, and his shoes get worn out, and he just really enjoys to run as well. But anyway, Jeffrey ends up in this town called Two Mills, and it's divided by the East End and West End, which is they have blacks living in one end and then whites in another. So it's a town where it's blacks versus whites. They have blacks living on one side, whites on the other. And then you find that the townspeople, they just don't understand each other, and they don't understand each other's race and background, and they're kind of scared of each other. You kind of learn throughout the story. And it kind of shows that this is why some of the townspeople have this hatred, because they just don't understand one another. And that's where this hatred kind of builds up. And in real life, I mean, you can use this part of the story to explain, character education. You can teach that just because you don't know somebody or understand somebody's race, getting to know somebody will help eliminate that hatred. I find that's a good tool. But anyway, back to Jeffrey. So while he's living in Two Mills, he gains the nickname Maniac Magee, hence the title Maniac Magee. That's where the title comes from. He meets several different families, and he confronts different bullies along the way. He makes friends with a bunch of the townspeople, such as Amanda Beale, who is an African American. So and it's a young girl, so different race and opposite sex. And then he also makes friends with, another example is Earl Grayson, who is an older man, and he is white, and he's, you know, poor, lonely man, and Jeffrey just makes friends with different types of people. He doesn't care about race or age, and he makes friends, and he adopts them into his own family. But he does move around from place to place, and sometimes he does end up sleeping outside or in a cabin or with animals, and he's cold and lonely. So there is a little bit of sad, you see the depressions that he goes through, and so there is some of the sad part of the story, and it kind of opens your eyes a little bit to what challenges some other people might have to go through in life. And it really gets you thinking about different situations. But over time, Jeffrey is able to meet all these different families and different people of different backgrounds, and he's able to unite some of them. It's nothing hugely drastic, like it's not the whole town committed to, you know, living with each other, but he does do his part, and it's a beautiful story where it shows what one person or one kid can do with uniting different people in a community and making a difference. Even if it's nothing super drastic, it's still making a difference, and it's beautiful. It's a learning experience, reading this story. And I recommend that you read this for yourself and you see where Jeffrey Magee ends up making his forever home. It's just a great, beautiful story, and I highly recommend it. It's nothing long, it's pretty short as well. So it's a short read, and it's just, it's great. So there's the story. So that's Maniac Magee by Jerry Spinelli.